I think that's my cue. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming out on such a beautiful spring day in Washington. I am Jason Grumet. I run the BPC, and I'm really delighted to be here. So, just by way of introduction, those of you who know us know we do a lot of events, right? We really like to interact with smart, thoughtful, engaged people. And I often get invited to come say some nice things at the beginning. But rarely do I demand the opportunity to address a crowd. Because there are a couple things I really want to let everybody know. The first is how much we appreciate you. And this is a personal, organizational, familial statement. Everyone in this room, in some way, small, medium, large, giant, participated and supported our democracy over the last several years, but certainly in the last several weeks. This election was extremely important. For 15 years, I have been asserting that there's this magical ballast in our democracy, this kind of superpower that whenever the country really starts getting to the abyss, has always kind of pulled us back together. If I want to go pseudo-intellectual, some of you may be aware of Tocqueville, who about 200 years ago cruised around America and basically said, they're not that smart, they're not that handsome, there's nothing particularly unique about them as a people, but the society has the capacity to make repairable mistakes. So I've been saying that a lot, even more and more over the last few years as I started to believe it less and less. And so it's incredibly gratifying to feel the embers of that power. And that comes from you all and a lot of other folks. But I think that what this election did was started to really vindicate the idea that our democracy does have that kind of resilience. It's lovely to be at an election summit a few weeks after the election and be talking about the future, right? That alone indicates what an incredible accomplishment this was. I was amazed by the grace of concession speeches from people who for months suggested they did not believe in the legitimacy of the process. And so I asked the gang if they could kind of make a sizzle reel of those, because I thought that would be a nice thing to share, and I believe that's underway. So that's my, my first thought to share. The second is just to talk about the importance of this work to the BPC. So when we started this thing about 15 years ago, we had this idea that there were two axes to effective government. One was, good public policy projects, bringing people together who had expertise and interest and passion and strong agreement and disagreement and trying to kind of really forge actionable solutions. And that's always been going great because people are interested in that. The energy companies, the healthcare companies, the foundations, there's always been a strong interest in our work around those kinds of issues. But we also said, hey guys, there's this other axis called functional government, which is the foundation upon which all of the things you care about rest. And we did this big study, our Commission on Political Reform, 10 years ago, and I got patted on the head by everybody. We would talk to these CEOs, and it was, the three fundamental kind of planks were election reform, congressional reform, and public service, civic engagement. So we wanted to push this thing, because that's what we do, right? We don't just write studies. We wanted to get out there and start to press for these ideas, and so I started talking to CEOs and other folks, and they would say, oh, this is so important, Jason. Just let me know any way I can help. And then I would talk to their heads of, GR and say, look, your CEO said that he'd like to come talk about reading. And they're like, shut up. You think I'm bringing, my CEO comes to town 3 times a year. You think I'm going to talk about election reform, right? Everyone was a free rider. Everyone was the kind of really glad you're doing this. And that has started to change. It started to change because people got scared. People recognized that their jobs, their capacity, their shareholders actually were not able to just count on somebody else to sustain this fundamental strength of our nation. So that's been terrifying and empowering. We've been working on these issues for a long time, and what we did just a few months ago was bring all of these different projects together under what we are calling our democracy program. And there's a core around elections, a big congressional piece. We have a new presidential leadership initiative. We work a lot on free expression on campus because we think if you can't figure out how to work across difference in school. You're probably not going to figure it out once you come to Washington. We have a program that brings members of Congress together to spend weekends with each other, just recognizing that one of the biggest absences in our congressional resilience is they don't know each other. And have rolled all that up under the just remarkable, passionate, and substantive leadership of our very own Matt Weil. A number of our team members are here today, and it's just one of the most dynamic teams we have at BPC. So I wanted to thank you, and I wanted to thank our elections team. And I'll make just one more nomination, suggestion, appreciation, and that is that we're only serving caffeinated coffee. I've never had an event before, downstairs and upstairs, so that says something about your character and our expectations for what comes next, because there is no room for complacency, right? The fact that we ran one good election is remarkable, but I think something that everyone in this new room knows is we're looking forwards, and so I thank you for that as well. And Matthew.
Thank you, Jason, for the support of BPC in the democracy issues for all 10 years that I've been at BPC. I really appreciate it. My name is Matthew Weil, and I am the Executive Director of the Democracy Program at the Bipartisan Policy Center. And we believe that a healthy democracy needs three things: transparent and fair processes, trustworthy and accountable institutions, and civic-minded bipartisan leaders. And yet, for the past few years, our electoral processes have been under threat, and they must evolve for the future. Our institutions are failing to inspire trust and respond to the will of the people. And too many leaders are demonizing others and moving away from bipartisanship. We believe that bipartisanship is the cornerstone of a functioning, fair, and lasting democracy, and that's what guides our work on the democracy program. So why are we here today? The challenges and threats we're facing over the next 2 years ahead of the 2024 election are multifaceted. Today is our chance to start confronting those issues. I'll say at the top, it's very nice to see so many people in the room today. Even though I've been in this field for a very long time, I've met over the past 2 days people I've only seen on a screen. So I really enjoy being back, and thank you all for coming and being in this room. I can tell you, I can promise you, you're in for a dynamic and unique experience today. For those who are joining us online, it won't be as cool, I can't promise that, but the conversations will be as good online as they will be in the room. So thank you for joining us online. And I also at the top want to thank the many people that made today and what you're going to experience today possible. I'm absolutely sure that I'm going to forget people, but I'm going to try my best not to. This includes the staff on the Elections Project, which is led by Rachel Ori, and we have Grace Gordon. We have the Structural Democracy Project, led by Michael Thorning. We have our Digital Democracy Project, which is run by Collier Fenekes and Katie Harbath. Alejandro, who works across all of our teams and keeps us moving in the right direction, has been key. Our BPC Comms team, our BPC Events team have all made today very possible. So I thank them all. My job right now is to walk you through quickly what we're about to hear. So we have 5 panels. The first one is about federal election reform in 2023, where we'll discuss what appetite Congress might have for election reform in a divided Congress. The panel after focuses on threats to democracy, election infrastructure, and against election officials. And right before lunch, we're going to have recapping election administration in the 2022 midterm elections. Our lunch, logistics, will be one floor down where you had breakfast. And during lunch, we encourage you, of course, to meet and sit with people you don't know and talk to them. But we also have, sponsored by the MIT Election Data Science Lab, a poster session. And we really encourage you to go around the room and learn about this new and exciting emerging research in the field. After lunch, when you're well fed and caffeinated, we'll come back up here. I think that'll begin exactly at 1:30, talking about election reform in the states. Following that, we will have a panel about election information and content moderation, especially what we need to know ahead of the 2024 elections. And we're going to finish up strong and very current with a panel on the independent state legislatures doctrine, which is being discussed or being argued in front of the Supreme Court tomorrow. I'm also supposed to urge you to use Countable. So around the room, downstairs, you've seen QR codes. Countable is a way to share links from your organization with other people who are at this conference. So I encourage you to find one of those QR codes, go to that website, and engage with us throughout the day. I want to just thank our sponsors for today, States United, the MIT Election Data Science Lab, and the Election Performance Project at Pew. And with that, I'm going to call up our first panel, which I'm sorry, you're going to have to hear from me again.